Sometimes in our lives we feel as though God is very distant and He doesn't hear our prayers. That's especially true when we're going through a dark or challenging experience. Today we're discussing the Christmas story and how we can find God in our common everyday lives. Whether we realize it or not, God always loves us and He wants to have a deeper relationship with us in this holiday season. For some people, and they hear, well, finding Jesus, well, I already found Jesus. Well, that's good, so have I. But sometimes in our lives we can feel, even though we've been Christians for a long time, we can feel as though the Lord is maybe kind of distant, or maybe the Lord, kind of has something against us, or maybe He's difficult to hear or difficult to find, especially in those dark times in our lives. And we're going to talk about the Magi, the wise men. These were incredible people who came and found Jesus on His birth, at His birth, when no one else did. The Jews didn't find Him. The shepherds only came because the angels told them that it was happening. Israel missed Jesus completely. The Jews missed Jesus completely. But these wonderful men who came from probably Babylon or Persia or someplace like that, they may or may have not been Jews, because there were a lot of Jews in Babylon at that time, but they probably were not Jews. But they certainly were wise men. And they teach us so much about in our lives, in the good times and the bad times, in the times when we're on top and the times certainly when we're on bottom, that we can find Jesus. And it might be where you are in your life right now. You really feel frustrated, maybe distant from God, maybe like God's got something against you, or it's just hard to hear Him or something like that. I'm going to talk now about how you can always find Jesus, how He's always there for you, but what the wise men teach us about the nature of God and what it requires to find Him. Now, in your Bibles there, if you'll turn to Matthew chapter 2, this is the Christmas story. This is the account of the birth of Christ, but we're going to read this now with special attention to the wise men and their behavior. This begins Matthew chapter 2, verse 1. It says, "After Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, 'Where is He who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen His star in the east and have come to worship Him.' When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. So they said to him, 'In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel.' Then Herod, when he had secretly called the wise men, determined from them what time the star appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem and said, 'Go and search carefully for the young child, and when you have found Him, bring back word to me that I may come and worship Him also.' When they heard the king, they departed, and behold, the star which they had seen in the east went before them till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. And when they had come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary his mother, and fell down and worshipped Him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented gifts to Him, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Then, being divinely warned in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed for their own country by another way." This message is called Our Common Problem in Finding God. This is part one of the series, Our Common Problem in Finding God. And I want to tell you about the difference between the wise men and the Jews in all of Israel that missed Jesus, because the wise men were absolutely incredible people. And here's why they found Jesus. The wise men came to Bethlehem. Bethlehem, in our world would be like a one-stoplight town with a Dairy Queen gas station, and that's it. It was just a small little village 2 miles out of Jerusalem. People just didn't pay much attention to it. All of the attention was in Jerusalem, where everything was happening, where all of the religious activity occurred. And the wise men came that night and told Herod, and then the Jews told him that, the Messiah was going to be born in Bethlehem. They tipped everybody off to the fact that something great was happening down the road of Bethlehem, but no one went, because in their minds, nothing great was happening in Bethlehem because they couldn't see it. It wasn't happening in the natural realm. But listen, the wise men got to Bethlehem, and they went and worshiped a common baby. Now, we know that Jesus was the Son of God. He didn't look like the Son of God. Jesus was born in a barn. We romanticize this. We say Jesus was born in a stable and he was laid in a manger. A stable is a barn, and a manger is an animal feeding trough. I mean, there's nothing romantic about it. If there was a child ever born of common circumstances, it was Jesus Christ. They weren't worshiping a baby laying in a golden crib, with angels around him. This child was laying in an animal feeding trough, and his parents were not, great people. They were not people of fame. I mean, we know who they are. They didn't know who they were. And the wise men came and found Jesus and worshiped him, though he was a common child in a common place, born of common parents. And this is why I believe that so many of us struggle with finding Jesus, is because we have the same problem as the Jews had back then. We're looking for a spectacular event. We're looking for a spectacular God. In other words, the Jews didn't go to Bethlehem because they knew anything great that's going to happen is going to happen on the Temple Mount. All of their attention was fixed upon Herod's temple and the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, because they knew all they have to do is hang around Jerusalem and great things are going to happen, because God's going to show up here. When the Messiah comes, he's going to come in the clouds with power and glory and great might, and we're going to see him, and he's going to parade himself into Jerusalem, and we're at the right place, and all we have to do is sit here and wait on him. It wasn't true at all. Jesus came as a common baby and was born of common circumstances and common parents and grew up in a little town called Nazareth. I mean, Jesus was just a common child. Now, we know he was God, but he didn't act like it. He really didn't. He was just a very normal child growing up in a very normal family, just being very common. And I want to say this. You can't find Jesus if you're looking constantly for something supernatural or royal or powerful or out of the ordinary, because Jesus is cloaked in the common. That's what the birth of Jesus tells us.
I'd probably say my favorite Christmas with the family was one only about 2 years ago. We got the tree, and the ornaments were handmade, and the gifts were, of course, handed out by the grandkids, and we just didn't make a big deal about everything, and it was just the most easy, laid-back, casual, fun time that I think we've ever had for Christmas.
Thank you for watching Marriage Today with Jimmy and Karen. Follow your interests and get social by connecting with Jimmy and Karen and the Ministry of Marriage Today on Twitter. Looking for your next great book? Start reading instantly with Marriage Today's ebooks, now available online. Become a rock-solid partner today and equip yourself with the tools you need for a successful marriage. $14, $28, or $56 per month. Choose the partnership level that's right for you. Become a rock-solid partner today.